Welcome to this deep dive. Today, we're cracking open Visa's latest financial numbers.
Yeah, from their Q2 fiscal year 2025.
Exactly. And we're pulling out the juicy bits from their earnings call, too.
Yeah,
We've got the official report, analyst notes, the whole 9 yards.
right. And the idea is really to boil it all down.
Yeah, give you the lowdown on how Visa's doing, what's making them tick, what's coming up, but, without needing a finance degree to get it.
Precisely. We're aiming for the highlights reel, basically. What's significant and, maybe more importantly, why it matters to you.
All right, so let's dive straight into the big picture then. Headline performance.
Okay, so net revenue reached $9.6 billion.
Which is up 9% compared to last year. That sounds, well, pretty good.
It is pretty good. That 9% jump, it really signals the underlying strength, even with all the economic uncertainty floating around.
Shows the core business is humming along.
Right. And on top of that, their earnings per share, that's profit per share, non-GAAP nominal basis, it went up 10% year over year.
Okay, 10%. And they beat expectations, I saw.
They did, which, again, points to solid profitability.
So not just growing revenue, but growing profit even faster. Now, what was powering this? What were the key drivers this quarter?
Well, a big one is just the sheer volume of money moving through their network. Payments volume grew 8% year over year.
In constant dollars, right? So take currency swings out.
Exactly. Think of it as just, more swipes, more taps, more clicks using Visa.
Okay, so more overall spending. But I thought I saw something about international payments really taking off.
You did. Yeah, that's a really interesting piece. Cross-border volume, so payments between countries, but excluding the ones just within Europe, that surged by 13%.
13%. Wow.
Yeah, in constant dollars again. It really points to a strong recovery, continued strength in things like international travel and also international e-commerce.
Makes sense. We're all traveling more again, it feels like. And it's
Yeah.
not just the dollar amount, right? It's the number of times people use Visa.
Precisely. Processed transactions, the actual count of transactions, that increased by 9% compared to last year.
Like, people are just using the network more often.
Yeah, consistently choosing Visa. And, oh, here's something else significant. They authorized a new share buyback program.
Oh, right. I saw that headline. How much was it?
$30 billion, a multi-year program.
30 billion. That's a lot of confidence.
It's usually seen that way, yeah. A signal they believe in their future value and, well, a way to return cash to shareholders.
Okay. Let's shift to how, we as consumers are interacting with Visa. More cards out there.
Yep, total credentials grew by 7%. More cards, more digital credentials. It expands their reach.
Foundational to growth, I guess. More cards, more potential transactions.
Exactly. And it's not just plastic anymore, is it? Tokenization is huge now.
Right. Tell me about that. The numbers look big.
They are. 13.7 billion tokens issued globally. They added a billion just since last quarter.
1 billion in 3 months.
Yeah. And get this, nearly 50% of global e-commerce transactions are now tokenized. Big milestones hit in Latin America and CEMEA too.
So remind us quickly, tokenization makes online shopping safer, right?
Essentially, yes. It replaces your real card number with a unique digital token for that transaction or merchant. So if there's a data breach somewhere, your actual card details aren't exposed. Huge security enhancement.
Makes sense why it's growing so fast.
Yeah.
And they're also still working on getting us to ditch cash, right?
Definitely. A key strategy. They mentioned adding over 1 million new merchant locations just in India, Mexico, and Brazil in the last year.
Places where cash is still pretty dominant.
Exactly. So expanding acceptance there is crucial for tapping into new transaction flows. 1 million new locations in a year in those key markets is significant progress.
And they're getting into our daily commutes too. Transit systems.
Right, the open loop transit deals. We saw examples mentioned in Argentina and Chile.
Open loop meaning I can just tap my regular Visa card?
Precisely. No need for a separate transit card. Just tap the same card you use for coffee. Makes it super convenient.
Okay. And the whole tap to everything push seems to be rolling along.
It is. They added nearly 2 million new tap-to-phone terminals since the last quarter.
So more small businesses can just use a phone to accept payments.
Exactly. And global tap-to-pay penetration is now at 76%. Even the U.S. has finally crossed 60%.
About time for the U.S.
Well, it's getting there. It shows people are really embracing the convenience of tapping.
And what about tap to add card?
Also gaining traction. Over 150 issuers participating across more than 35 countries now makes it easier to load your card into digital wallets.
And they're even launching tap to P2P. Person-to-person payments.
Yeah, coming soon in the U.S. with Samsung Wallet. It leverages tokenization for security and Visa Direct for the actual money movement.
So tapping phones to send money to friends. Could be interesting.
Potentially simplifies things quite a bit, yeah.
Okay, now this next bit is fascinating. Stablecoins.
Uh-huh. They're definitely leaning into this. Over $200 million in cumulative stablecoin settlement volume on their platform.
Still small compared to their overall numbers, but growing.
Growing, and they hit a milestone achieving the first 7-day-a-week settlement cycle. Transactions aren't just limited to banking hours anymore.
That seems important for making it practical.
It's a key step, and they're not just facilitating, they're building infrastructure.
The Visa tokenized asset platform.
Exactly. To help banks issue and leverage stablecoins themselves, and they have got their first pilot partner.
A big one, right? BBVA.
Yeah, major Spanish bank BBVA plans to launch a stablecoin on Ethereum using this platform.
So Visa's trying to bridge traditional finance and, well, crypto finance.
That's a good way to put it, positioning themselves for whatever comes next in digital money.
And even the traditional high-end cards are still evolving. They mentioned a new Scotiabank card in Canada.
Right. The Scotiabank Passport Visa Infinite Privilege focuses on elite travel benefits. Shows they're still catering to that premium segment which drives higher spending.
Okay, let's switch gears a bit. What about the business side? Commercial payments.
Steady growth there, too. Commercial volume was up 6% in constant dollars. Businesses keep using Visa.
And Visa Direct. We mentioned it for P2P, but it's much bigger than that, right?
Much bigger. Transactions surged 28% year over year. They hit 3 billion transactions in the quarter.
3 billion.
Yeah, they're calling it the largest money movement platform now. Huge scale for remittances, gig economy payouts, B2B payments, all sorts.
And that growth must be helping their Commercial and Money Movement Solutions division, CMS.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
CMS revenue was up 13% year over year in constant dollars. Strong performance.
They also highlighted some specific deals, something about Lloyds Bank and SAP.
Yeah, Lloyds is working with a company called Thalia. They're embedding Visa virtual cards directly into SAP ERP workflows.
So businesses using SAP can easily generate Visa cards for payments.
Right. It's called embedded finance. Makes accounts payable much smoother, more efficient.
Interesting. And they're helping another bank, Itaú, with something called Card as a Service.
Yeah, basically providing the tech infrastructure so Itaú can easily create and manage their own branded card programs for their business clients, extends Visa's reach.
Got it. And expanding internationally, too. Hong Kong B2B travel.
Right, with Leonlia Global. They're using Visa Direct's multi-currency features for a B2B travel payment solution there. Shows the platform's versatility for cross-border business.
And more partnerships for Visa Direct itself are coming online.
Yep, Jack Henry for faster bank-to-bank transfers, Checkout.com in the UAE for push-to-card payments, and a bigger deal with TabaPay in the US for push-to-account and push-to-wallet.
So just making it easier to send money in more ways to more places.
That's the goal, expanding the network, expanding the capabilities.
Okay, now let's talk value-added services, VAS. This seemed like a real bright spot.
Huge bright spot. Revenue grew an impressive 22% in constant dollars.
22%. That's significantly faster than the core payments growth.
It is. It shows their strategy of offering more than just basic payment processing is really paying off. Huge demand for these extra services.
And it was broad-based growth.
They said strong growth across all VAS portfolios, so let's break that down a bit.
Okay, issuing solutions first, helping banks issue cards.
Right. They mentioned progress with Pismo, that company they acquired, aiming to enter 5 new countries this year with that platform.
And specific deals.
Yep, mentioned deals with Nequi in Colombia, Banco de la Nación in Argentina, T2P in Thailand, and another in India. Plus, the traditional card benefits business is still growing.
Like the Austrian bank travel platform.
Exactly. Raiffeisen Bank International launched a travel platform using Visa benefits. Adds value to the card for the consumer.
Okay, next, acceptance solutions, helping merchants accept payments.
Big news there. A new version of Authorize.net is launching next quarter in the U.S. with AI capabilities built in.
AI for payment processing. Interesting.
Yeah, likely for things like optimizing approvals or detecting fraud. They're also piloting a new unified checkout experience.
Unified check.
Sounds like a simpler way for customers to pay online, supporting multiple payment options and integrating with their whole acceptance solutions platform. And they bagged a big client.
Decathlon, the sports retailer.
Yep. Decathlon chose them as their payment service provider for e-commerce. Nice win.
Okay, what about risk and identity solutions? Fraud prevention stuff.
Also strong traction. The Featurespace acquisition seems to be doing well over 20 clients signed globally already.
And they're offering the Eric A. Crease Cup.
Right. using AI and machine learning for enhanced fraud protection.
Mm,
Very important in today's environment.
definitely. And the last VAS category, advisory and other.
This includes their open banking platform powered by Tink. That's growing too.
Open banking, allowing easier payment initiation and account info sharing.
Exactly. They highlighted a partnership in Germany involving Tink, Adyen, Recharge, and Vodafone for pay-by-bank options, reaching over 10,000 merchants already through partnerships with European PSPs.
So Visa's really positioning itself in that evolving open banking space too.
Seems like it. Covering all the bases in modern finance.
So looking ahead then, what's the financial outlook for the rest of fiscal 2025?
Well, for the current quarter, Q3, and the full year, they're guiding to adjusted net revenue growth in the low double digits.
Okay, so continuing that strong growth, what about costs?
Adjusted operating expenses expected to grow in the low double digits for Q3, but maybe a bit slower for the full year, high single digit to low double digit range.
And the bottom line, earnings per share.
Adjusted diluted EPS growth. They're anticipating high teens for Q3 and low teens for the full year.
So strong profit growth expected to continue. Any caveats or things to watch?
A couple of things. They do expect cross-border volume growth might moderate slightly in the second half of the year, maybe be a bit below the levels we saw late last year.
Okay. And incentives, payments to clients.
Yeah, they flagged that incentives growth is likely to be higher in the second half, partly due to adjusting for how well clients are doing, and also just the timing of some big deals renewing.
And this all assumes the economy holds up reasonably well.
Right. The outlook assumes consumer spending stays resilient, but they did acknowledge uncertainties, potential impacts from things like tariffs or, currency volatility. Always have to keep an eye on the macro picture.
Makes sense. Now, the Q&A with the analysts on the earnings call often gives some extra color. What came up there?
A lot, actually. Good insights. One analyst asked about client engagement, given all the economic uncertainty.
How are they helping banks and merchants navigate this?
Visa's CEO, Ryan McInerney, talked about really focusing on providing data, insights, their advisory services, and just the breadth of their products to help clients manage.
Okay, and travel came up again, the outlook being a bit fluid.
Yeah, McInerney emphasized how diversified their cross-border business is, different regions, different reasons for travel or spending. That mix helps them ride out fluctuations in any one area.
Diversification helps. What about the cross-border forecasts themselves? Any more detail?
The CFO, Krisu, gave some context, said their assumptions factor in things like currency weaknesses in certain markets and maybe some normalization in travel between Canada and the U.S. after a strong run based on recent trends.
Got it. And analysts obviously dug into that strong value-added services growth. What drives that resilience?
Both McInerney and Sue chimed in, pointed to innovation across the board, new products, good execution in issuing, acceptance, risk, advisory. It's not just one thing, it's the whole package performing well.
Right. And those incentives, the payments to clients, analysts wanted more on why they're expected to tick up.
Sue explained it's a mix. Some relates to client performance tiers, clients hitting targets might earn more, and some is just the timing of when certain large contracts come up for renewal. Standard course business mostly.
Okay. There was also some technical discussion, I think, about the gap between growth in the value of cross-border payments versus the revenue Visa gets from it.
Yeah, that can be tricky. So, broke it down. Main factors are foreign exchange rates, the mix of clients involved in those transactions, and also the impact of Visa's own currency hedging activities. Several moving parts.
Right. And U.S. volume growth. Was Easter timing messing with the numbers?
So basically said, be careful reading too much into weekly or monthly data. Yes, the latest figures got a bit of a boost from Easter being earlier this year, but the underlying trend in U.S. consumer spending remains pretty steady.
Okay. Any comments on what people are spending on? Like entertainment, affluent consumers.
Sue noted some shifts, maybe, in discretionary spending choices, but overall levels are holding up. And they continue to see strong growth from the more affluent consumer segments.
Interesting. Given the, let's say, geopolitical backdrop, how is Visa thinking about its big investment bets?
McInerney sounded pretty confident in their current strategy and product roadmap. They plan to keep investing. But he also stressed they're watching the macro environment closely and are ready to be flexible if things change dramatically.
So they have levers they can pull if the economy really turns down.
Exactly. McInerney mentioned the resilience of their diverse business model, the fact that some costs, like incentives, naturally adjust with volume, and their ability to manage operating expenses if needed.
Okay. And any more on stablecoins? Potential. Progress.
McInerney acknowledged its early days, but reiterated they see real potential. They're actively working on partnerships and new product ideas. He actually encouraged people to watch for an upcoming product announcement for more details.
Ooh, little teaser there.
Yeah, keep an eye out.
One last Q&A point. Dealing with government nationalism risks, countries favoring local payment systems.
Yeah.
Visa's been dealing with that for ages, right?
For a very long time. McInerney emphasized their deep experience working with governments and regulators globally. Their approach is about tailoring strategies for each market, being a local player, and educating stakeholders on the value and complexity of the global payments network.
So an ongoing process, not a new panic.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
Part of the global landscape for them.
Okay, so let's try and wrap this up. What are the key takeaways here?
Well, clearly a strong quarter for Visa,
Hmm.
performance driven by solid growth in payment volumes, especially cross-border, but also really impressive growth in those value-added services.
Yeah, VAS really stood out, and they're pushing ahead with strategic stuff, tokenization, open banking, even stablecoins. Lots of innovation.
Right. Focus on technology, strong client partnerships seem key. And navigating this, well, dynamic global environment, they seem pretty confident about the rest of 2025 financially.
Confident, but also aware of the risks out there. Balanced outlook, maybe.
I think that's fair. Confident but cautious seems to be the tone. This deep dive really shows Visa isn't just sitting back. They're actively trying to shape the future of payments.
Yeah, their investments in tokenization, stablecoins, Visa Direct. It feels like they're building the rails for an even more digital financial future.
Absolutely. Which leads us nicely into something for you, the listener, to think about.
Okay, our final provocative thought. Given this big push by Visa into things like tokenization and stablecoins, how might these trends really change the way we pay for things, the way we interact with banks and financial services maybe in the next 5, 10 years?
Yeah, what new opportunities might open up? Or perhaps what new challenges could arise for us as consumers or for businesses as these technologies get more mature and, more mainstream?
Definitely some food for thought there.
Yeah.
How different could payments look down the road? Thanks for taking this deep dive with us today.